Good morning. It is 10:30 a.m., just after. It is Sunday, and that means it is time for Sunday Club, which is a weekly Ruby on Rails live stream, and each week we work on an application together. And the application we are currently working on is an application for registering people to take part in events, kind of like Eventbrite or kind of apps like that. And you can take a look at a bunch of stuff that we've worked on in the past in the YouTube channel. Just search for Sunday Club. If you're watching this on Twitch, you can find hopefully links to the YouTube channel in all of the descriptions and things like that. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and New Year. This is the first stream in a little while. Going to be a bit rusty because haven't done this in a few weeks. Was off. It was Christmas. Spent time with family and friends, did Christmassy stuff. Hope you all had wonderful festive periods, whatever you were doing, and are back in 2022 feeling good. I hope you're all staying safe out there because it's some strange COVID times. But let's jump into it. Let's get in. You will notice that the last thing I said is that I was going to do a user interface design stream over my Christmas period because I had a week off a couple of weeks before Christmas, but we went away, and then I just didn't do it over Christmas because I was with my family instead, and didn't really do a lot on a computer at all. Not just streaming. Didn't do much coding or designing or anything. So we're back 2022, and so we have no user interface design for the app yet. It'll come. We'll do it. I'll do it. I'm not gonna worry too much about that. So that's the only follow-up I got, I think. One tiny bit of follow-up, which is a thank you to this stream was referenced on a Rails newsletter to which I am subscribed, and it is Ruby. I want to check I get the name right. I think it's called Ruby Radar, but I'm just going to check the name. Sorry, bear with me just a second. It is the Ruby Radar. Yep. So in issue 23, it says 28, and then the link says 23. The 28 says in the big image. So 28, they link to a stream of of this channel. So super appreciate that. Go check out Ruby Radar at. I'm going to try and find the URL. RubyRadar.dev, DEV. Yep, all one word. Ruby Radar, RADAR. Great. Go check them out. Super appreciated. And let's dive in. Let's get to doing what we're doing. Let's try and work out what we are doing. So jump over to some code. All right. So we've got this Notion page that we use sort of loosely for planning, and I think we've got a bunch of stuff of this done. So the public can see an event listing. I think we had all this stuff. So it won't look great. Don't worry about what it actually looks like because we're just working on the fact that whether the functionality is there. Like I said, we don't have a user interface design, and we haven't really done a user interface at all. So let's... So are we still logged in? No, we're not. Okay. But what we want... Can I get that to not... to stop popping up? Okay, I don't know. I'll check that out later. So let's get a console up so we can find the right user to sign in with. This is sort of refreshing my memory, but hopefully this will serve as a refresher for anyone else who is coming to this stream for 2022. Because I can't really remember where we got to. I always think about when if people ever watch these and sort of jump around, it will be really obvious because you'll have loads of context from looking around, and the person talking, me, won't have any context because it's usually a week between streams, and right now it's 5 since we did the last one, 6. Right there. Great. Okay, so these are our events in, you can see we're in /Sunday Club, that's the name of our organization, /admin, so we are an administrator for these events. And then this is the events index page. So this is a list of the events. Remember, it's an event registration application. And these are all of our events, just no design or anything. We just had a name and some timestamps when the event started, when it finished. We can edit them. We can click to go into the edit view. This is a very rough edit view. We can change the name, the time at which the event starts, the time at which the event finishes, the time zone of the event, and a description. Oh, and I think down here, browse was like a profile photo, like an image to represent that, for which we use active. So we've done a lot of stuff. We've got active storage for the images, action text for descriptions. This is all generic Rails field stuff, but we can edit them, so that's good. And more importantly, for that thing we're talking about, public can see event listing. We open up a new tab. This is the public page for that event. And unfortunately, you can see that Friendly ID has appended the UUID on the end of the URL there, but that doesn't really matter too much. I think we might have solved that one as well. So I think this one is done. I think that can go into completed. Top there. So admin can administrate event, feature test to create, feature test to edit and update. They're all done. So we've just seen that that can happen as well. So that one can be completed. So this one's not started. User can register for accounts. So it's not started. Let's just pull it back over to here and see what we've got. This is sort of a rough. This is pulled from a list we had originally of things we want to do. User can register for account. User can update their own details. User can register for events. I think that's the one we really want to care about. Admin can see list of attendees. User can see events for which they are registered. So I think this is the most interesting. This probably isn't the most practical to work on, but as we've spoken about in the past on this stream, we're doing things for the fact that we're streaming and like we'd probably design it before we built it. Like I think this stream, we don't tend to do things the right way around here. Although we do have a little, I do have a little thing where we jot down some stuff to get to. These are like some smaller tasks that I think could be good to do on streams in the future. But in general, I think we just do things that are interesting. So I think the thing that's really interesting at the moment is allowing users to register for event. So why do I think that's the most interesting? Because I think it throws up all of the design problems that are interesting in code. So for example, user can register for account. One of the questions to ask about registering is, do they need to have an account at all? Or are we happy for random people to just sign up, to just see an event on the application, click register or buy a ticket or whatever, move through the process, and then they don't have an account. So we store the purchase, and only the information they enter is what's relevant to it. And there is no concept of them sort of signing back in or logging back in. They've just made a purchase, sort of like you don't have to make a purchase all the time for an e-commerce site. You can just sometimes like check out as guest or whatever it says. And then the email address you use is your like a link, I guess, and you'd maybe get an order number or something like that. So I think that makes this interesting because I have done this in the past, mentioned this on previous streams, like worked with an application that did events before, and we did force a sign up because of verifying email addresses. So we worked with good causes and charities, and one of the biggest issues that we had with users was incorrect email addresses. There were a lot of older users and they would never type in their email address correctly. And so putting in that brick wall of, hey, you have to verify your email address before you can complete your purchase, saved everyone a lot of downstream support issues because no one would ever get their confirmation emails if we didn't force them to verify that email in some way. And you can work around that now. We could do text messaging or something like that. But that is a fundamental choice that changes your user experience so dramatically that it's not one you can sort of casually change later where you're like, oh yeah, well, we'll just force everyone to have an account now. Well, you've broken all the events for which you've allowed them not to have an account, or you allow them not to, and then you realize your support burden is so massive because loads of people are getting in touch being like, hey, I never got my confirmation email, when they in fact had a typo in their email address, would use the wrong email address, would use shared email addresses. These were all things that cropped up in user support, even though we had put in that kind of that blocking function. We still had the issue, just at a smaller scale. And that app doesn't run at a massive scale. It was tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of people. And even then we were making choices based on that. So I think that's what makes this an interesting design feature, design thing to do. So let's get into it. What do we? I've got a backlink here. What does that go to? An MVP list. Okay, cool. This is a cool feature in Notion. I didn't used to do that. You can see which other pages have linked to this page. I think it's cool. All right, what do we want to do then? So we want to. We're not going to do these like user stories or anything. We're just going to make them super basic. So show a button on the event page that starts the. I'm going to put purchase actually rather than registering. Because I want to get into it that they're buying a ticket, even if they're buying it for £0. I think they're still buying it, which again was something we did differently in the other version of this I tried. So show button event page. We want to gather minimum required fields for a purchase. I think we want to send a confirmation email. I think we want to show a confirmation screen. So I think we should make this the most totally basic thing we can possibly do, where we say that, okay, we're only going to require an email address to be the minimum thing that we need. And that's it. Like in the future, I know that we were going to want to be able to add fields that the event organizer can define and things like that. But for now, let's do the absolute minimum. So it's like, hey, I'm interested in attending. Great. What's your email address? Thanks a lot. Cool. You're in. And then that sort of like gives us enough of a minimum version that's not shippable necessarily, unless we just decide to. I'm not actually against doing a UI design and running some events ourselves where we just collect some email addresses from people as a testing example. But you can start to do things like capacity and all the stuff we talked about. There is a series of streams back in the YouTube, this channel archive, where we did weeks and weeks of playing around with a prototype version of what it would look like to build a sort of app agnostic purchasing process. And so we can take a lot of those things and start to apply them to this minimum version. So yeah, let's get into this actually. Let's sort of let's make it in progress. Let's before we make it in progress, let's go and check our sorry, I should have bumped the font size up on that for the stream. Cool. Okay, so let's go and check where we are up to. So we are on a Git branch called add image to events. And what state is that Git branch in? Oh, god damn it, it's full of work. Oh no. Oh no, it's full of work in progress ones. What? Come on, 2021, Max, that's not cool. It's even got a fix-up one in it. Come on. I bet what I thought was, oh, well, I'm going to come back to this over the Christmas break. I'll have done this by the time we get back. That's not cool. That's not cool. Has this been pushed? Add image to events. Hang on, sorry. I'm going to go and load up GitHub in another window. Not cool. Not cool past Max. It's really... hang on a second, I'm just getting GitHub. Really what most of development is just yelling at your past self for screwing your current self over, just in various different contexts. Right, hang on, bear with me. So here is the repo. And what do we want? Branches. Your branch. Is there a better link to branches? moved? Am I missing something? Oh well. So we didn't even push it up. Oh, come on. Come on. Wait. All right, but we did say, okay, let's get on board with this, because we did say we were going to be much tidier this app round. So maybe we have to do some Git hygiene. I'm not even apologizing for it, because we got to do it, because last time we didn't and things got way too out of hand on the GitHub side. But we can sort of do that in the background. So there's the new. How big is that stupid PR? Oh, whoops. Too big. How did that get so big? Did I really not push any of this? What's in master? Or is this just me jumping back to something that has already been migrated, merged in? Take a look. Nope. Okay. Maybe we push that to the end of this stream. We go and look at the purchases and we go around, but we don't leave the stream with that in place. Image to events. I think everything's. Are these written up? No. Okay. Right, so it's now 10 to 11. Let's give ourselves kind of half an hour minimum on doing something new, and then we'll come back to this. So let's make a branch from where we are. This is just this is exactly what happened last time, and the rebase is just getting longer and longer, and I kept getting more annoyed. So I don't know what we're doing. Register for event. Let's figure out what we're going to do. All right, so what does registering for an event look like? Again, I'm going to go back and reiterate the point. This is not the normal design process that I would be doing. Normally we would work or doing something proper. We would design and have conversations around things and plan them all a bit more. Because it's the stream, we're just going to dive in a bit and sort of figure it out as we go. And that's okay. That's a good, that's okay. All right, so what we do have is our other repo where we were playing with stuff like this. So let me open that as well. That is over here. And I don't know if... So this is from streams. This is from a set of streams that we did around... Yep, this concept of like having a shopping cart. And... this idea of group registration being such a key part of what we're looking to make easy. So I found them really, really useful and interesting streams to try and frame my thinking around this. We looked at a bunch of competitor applications and how each of them treated group registration differently. So what do I mean by group registration? I mean, you are taking part in a fun run, and so you maybe want to buy 5 slots on that fun run, but you want to compete as a team. And so you need to enter 5 people's details. but maybe you want to buy 10 slots, but 2 teams of 5. And how do you delineate that? Like, it could be an extra field on each attendee that's taking part, or a ticket that you're selling. But maybe that list needs to be from a select list that's already been created, or maybe people need to be able to create groups and join and leave those groups separately. Once they've purchased their ticket, how can they administer the groups? And we looked at Eventbrite, which doesn't allow doesn't allow that like group editing afterwards. When we looked at some of them that were like really built for it, Active springs to mind with one of the longest editing screens I've ever seen in my life, which is amazing, but gives loads of power to the organizers to set that up, because that's more what they're focused on. And we looked at how you could then build that into the cart process, because how all of those things have a knock-on effect of the purchase. And so we had this idea of being able to create a cart first, I think. I'm trying to remember this now. And then create an order from your cart. And the idea was that rather than seeing a button on the event page that would kick off a process, so let's say that this is our event page. And let's go to our view here. Events show. So in here, oh, there's a profile photo there as well. Okay, so in here we could say, let's say buy ticket. And then this could be a new order path. And that class could be like button or something. We don't have a button class, but whatever. That link would then show up in here. Okay, I don't actually have a path, so it doesn't. Okay, so you click buy ticket, but instead of that, what a cart would get you is a form. So here you would have a form with a bunch of information from the event, and it would be all of the ticket types that you could purchase and the quantities of them. So this is like an Eventbrite style event. I wonder if we're still signed into Eventbrite in this browser. I doubt it. Sign it. Should have. So we go to these. I've just clicked on some random event. Oh, they do have a button, but when you get to the button, you often get, what ticket type do you want? Well, there's no reason to have a click on button. You could just show this potentially on that page when it loaded. And they have got, oh my. Oh my, whenever you design an interface, you always forget how far users are going to push it. That's a lot of ticket types for a user to scroll through. I mean, those are essentially 20, 30, 40 different events, different days, different people, types of thing. Okay, but it all makes sense. It does the thing. Let's say we want to buy one of these. So you can see over here, what's sort of happening is that a cart is being built. And then when we click checkout, we're moving this into the ordering process. So that might start to take up, maybe at this point, we aren't doing live allocation checks for like whether the ticket's available or anything like that. But maybe we now have done the allocation. Yeah, so there we get that 20-minute, that kind of 20-minute timer, because this allocation has potentially already happened. So sorry if anyone is trying to get that last Sylvester McCoy Sunday photo session ticket, because I have blocked it for the next 20 minutes. Oh, it's for Comic-Con. Okay, cool. I leave, that should, I'm guessing that clears that allocation as well. Cool. So I think for our basic version, let's not worry about any of that. Let's just do the order first. Because we've got those prototype videos to refer back to. And then we can sort of hopefully inch our way into something more complicated. Maybe. Yeah, let's try having an order. Let's make a really basic order and just inch our way there really awkwardly. That sounds like a better idea. So just going to check if our tests passed for this branch. It'd be even more annoying if we have a branch that we then can't actually have a little green tick somewhere. Does this only run on making the PR? Doesn't run on pushing the branch? Okay. Make a draft PR? Okay. Okay. That's not what this branch actually covers, but I'm just going to make a pull request now so those tests run. And we'll come back and rebase all that stuff later, tidy it up. What do you want to do? We want to say create orders. All right. So what does an order have? This is where we're live coding without having done any design or thought work. Other than that, did we actually? I don't think we even did any of that in the prototyping stuff, did we? Maybe we did. No. Okay. Okay, so we had this notion of line items. And the idea was to genericize that you didn't have to just buy tickets. You could also put in t-shirts or other add-ons as part of an order. So the order didn't need to just consist of tickets. It consisted of line items, and then each line item would be associated with something that knew how to behave in relation to that line item. So if the order was successful, each line item would be able to receive a order complete, and it would do whatever it needed to do. So maybe like confirm it. If it was a ticket, maybe it would confirm its allocation or something like that. Which I don't think is a bad. We've really got into some like that's not straightforward. There was a lot going on there. I don't think it was awful. So we had this idea of like you could purchase, because for the line item you weren't always purchasing an attendee. It wasn't a ticket. It might be a ticket type that was a group ticket that represented 5 tickets, but then you might actually have it could be one ticket that represented 5 people or 5 individual line items, and it was how you then did the allocation of those. It was like 3 levels of complexity, which was fun but not great to talk about on a stream. It's one of those ones you really want to spend 6 months in when you're building something like in it every day. Whereas I think we can just be dumber for now. So let's say we want something like an order number. Oh wait, this is the wrong round, isn't it? So we want an order number that's probably different to the ID of the record. And that's just something we can generate that we don't want to be false. There will always be an order number. Let's say that we want to have... What does Eventbrite call it? It calls it like the... They call it the purchaser. So you have like, because the person purchasing the ticket is not necessarily the person going. So if you say order owner. It's interesting that that's just first name, last name, and email address. I wonder if that's internally, because I would be more like to put owner first name, owner last name, in case you then wanted to assign, like, what happens if they can you transfer ownership of a ticket over? Interesting that owner rather than purchaser. I suppose the person who, you might be the person making the purchase with your card, but you might be typing in someone else's details. So maybe owner is a better word for that. And then you end up with all of the problems of having first name and last name, which is its own world of problems. So like if you don't ask for them separately, because lots of people don't have a first name and last name, you get things like ordering by surname becomes really difficult because you just ask for name. So ordering by name doesn't really work as well. So let me... I like the idea of these being explicit. Oh crap, just... How many of these can be optional? Oh, only these ones. So create an update that we'll get for free. Right, okay, so... oh, interestingly, so they've got first name, last name, and name. So... Did they look to transpose those to first name and last name? Hello, in chat. Are you using the new Rails 7? This is Rails 6. It's the latest 6, I think. So I haven't updated it to 7 because there's nothing in there that I need at the moment. Just because this stuff is pretty basic at the moment. Okay, well let's I wonder if they do look to transpose name to first name and last name at all. Be interesting if there's any other documentation around that. Like maybe if you allow people to enter name, you transpose some first name and last names for admins to allow them to filter a search, and then they can adjust that as they wish to, but the user doesn't actually see it. So maybe this could be an admin only field where they can use it for sorting. So you make a best guess if there's a single space, you transpose it out, and they could be like sort names rather than name, but the user, the person purchasing the ticket, never sees them, so they could be for sorting purposes only. Is that an awful idea? I have no idea. But none of these are optional. I don't have an optional prefix in front of them. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that. Let's just use name and let's see if we can come up with, we can add the sort ones later. That's kind of good. Email address costs, blah, blah, blah. I don't think we care about any of this this other stuff. But we do want to know what event they're from. So can we do this one? That work? Let's see. Okay, so we've got our migration and we should have some schema changes. Let's see what we've got. We've got an orders table, an order number, owner name, owner email address, event ID, an index on the event ID, and created at and updated at. All right, let's take that as a basic start to what we're doing. I'm just going to use VS Code as our Git editor here. Add creation for cool. Okay, so let's add an order model. Oops. And we want to do spec models, order spec. Yep, so there's nothing in there. That's great. We expect that to fail. And we want to do, I can never remember which way around it goes, this. Great. Cool. And what do we actually, we expect order. I think we expect it to belong to event. Great, okay. So we have an order that expects an event. Okay, so let's commit that. Come back and tidy up these commits later, like we've got to do for that other branch. We'll worry about that later. All right, so let's go and make one. So let's say that from that you want to be able to create an order and you need to know the event that that order is for. So we could nest the order pass within here if we wanted to. And we could have that as our path. What would that give us? Go take a look at our Rails routes. That would give us. Where's orders? Oh, oops, sorry. Resources, orders. So we've got new event order path. So we'd have the organization slug. So that could be like Sunday-club is the example one, /events, /event ID, /order, /new. I don't think this is a good idea for now for the reason we were talking about earlier, which is I think the ordering process probably wants to be pretty flexible. And maybe what we actually pass the order eventually is a shopping cart, or is like a reference to a thing that we've stored, and the order like kicks off the timer and does all that stuff, but it gets past everything it needs. So if it's being passed everything it needs, it doesn't need to be nested to work. And so what that would allow us to do is initially build a version where we could pass it via a simple set of params, and then building out a cart object or something else like that to pre-build the thing that you are purchasing. Doesn't have an impact. So let's say, what do I mean by that? So let's say that the first version you build, you can only buy tickets for this event, which I think is a rule you'd probably stick to, but just as an example. So that makes total sense to nest it under the event ID. Later on, we have carts, shopping carts, baskets, whatever you want to call them, that allow you to buy two events, or like a t-shirt from one event and a ticket from another event. So suddenly this one being nested doesn't make any sense. What the order is actually more independent from the event than you would think. And I think if we don't nest it, we don't lose anything by not nesting it, but we gain the ability to add flexibility. So what does that look like? I think that potentially orders is its own thing. And I don't know if there's too much. How much risk is there in making a decision like that? Probably not a huge risk, because even if we realize that's awful and we do want to stick to all these rules and we do want it under the events one, this could just become a redirect to, and we know that we would always have, if those rules have always been followed, we would always have the event ID to pass it into, and therefore the organization ID, because each event would belong to an organization. So we would be able to build that redirect pretty easily if we wanted to. So let's take a look at what this does to our routes. We just have order /new out of nowhere. So that then needs to be past something. So what does that look like? This link that we added to our show page, our events show page, can now go to, I'm guessing it's just new event path. Oh, sorry, new order path. There's no class called button, so I don't know why. It was just an example that it could be a button. And this /orders /new in the bottom left of the browser, you can see there. Okay, so that buys us some flexibility without costing us anything, I think. So let's make that link work. Let's make that path do something. In order to do that, we're going to put in a controller. So we're going to do these request specs. So we are going to have an orders controller spec. Oh, I forgot to put the suffix on it. Cool. So we've got orders controller. And then what can we grab from here? We've got context new. Let's just say initially we just want it to do something. So let's say context new action. We can just say get does new. So we can say we just want a page to do a thing. Just want to say, hey, I'm here. Yep, you can access me. You don't need to be signed in or anything. The super basic test to say we've got something that works. And we haven't because we haven't built the controller. So let's go do that. There's orders. And we can, I generally tend to put in an explicit action, even though it would be inferred by the presence of a view. So we know that would fail because we haven't got a view. Let's just sort of skip over seeing that failure. And in here, we can go to orders. And we can just write new order. Just so that, and so I think that test should now pass. Yep. Okay. Just gonna do a super basic commit for that as well. So we now have our controller. We have our new order view. We have our root. Root. And we have a request spec for all of those. Add initial version. Controller and view. So now we click this. We've got new, it does say new order under there, but it's hidden under the little performance thing. Cool. So what is the problem here? The problem is that if we then try to create an order in our controller, order equals order.new, we wouldn't know what the event was. And that's sort of key because even we can ask for the rest of the fields. So the fields that we've made mandatory for order, this is all pretty, like, we're just going through Rails stuff at the moment. We can generate an order number when it gets created. We can ask for the email address and name of the person making the order. But the thing that we can't know after the fact, I guess we could put a drop down list and say, hey, what event do you want to take part in? But that's sort of a moot point because they've just clicked on a link. So let's do event ID and let's pass that. We'll just do that via a param for now. Again, I think eventually that will actually be a cart that you will create elsewhere and the order will actually accept a reference to something else. So we build an order out, persist it somehow. Maybe it could be in the database. Maybe it could be something that gets posted to the page or something like, yeah, maybe it's like base64 version of the params or something. I don't know what it is, but somehow it gets there. But that's a little while off for us, so we could just do a basic version of this. Order params, and we are gonna say, I don't think we need to do any of this because just doing a read, is that right? So we could do order new. I think what we would want to do is get the event from the slug to make it look nice. I'm just going to make that call on the fly. So let's actually put set event from slug because this is. No, I'm not doing tests for this, but we'll kind of come back and do this. What we're trying to talk it through. So instead of passing an ID number, we want to pass a slug. And again, we could just pluck the ID here because we don't actually need the entire event, but I think we will because I think we'll want to show a bunch of stuff. So so set event from slug. Does that completely bug out? Yep. And then if we pass that through, what a path. Great, so that now seems to work. So you can see that what I've done is appended the slug. So you're going orders/new, and then it's here, question mark event equals new event, and then this massive long slug. And hopefully in the background, we now have that being selected by this controller so that we can set the order to have that event. Again, I think this is a temporary thing because I think this wouldn't be how we'd want to structure it long term, but it'll sort of get us out the door, I think. And what do we want to do? We want to check event is present. I'm not sure whether we want to. Just gonna so no. We take that out. November that ID. Yeah, so then we've got an event not present, and then there we get new order. Okay. So I think if we just, what did I do just there? So we had event.find. You just get a bug if you had the incorrect param. I think we want to probably provide a better user experience there. So let's say our context is here. Can we do just going to write some tests for that behavior of like, hey, if we pass you an event that we don't think is valid, have I done that within a feature spec? Okay, what? And this one is not that. So in here, do we actually pass in an error? What response code do we want for that? Rails errors. Bad request. I think it would depend on whether, like, did the tickets just go off sale, like it was available and now it's not? Well, I guess you should handle that. We could redirect back to the event page in that case. Like if it got the event, I think there were two separate events. Is the event correct? Yes. Can I buy tickets to this event? No. There, you could just send them back and be like, oh, hey, it's not available now. Whereas what we're saying is explicitly there's no event here with that slug. So we want that to be that. And again, we're sort of making all of this up on the fly. You'd normally have thought all this stuff out in advance, but I think you can just do that. 100% sure. Great, so that now passes. And then if we do have the correct... So here we need an event. And... Oh, so... Also, it should return a success response. And this we want new action. To be event. Still not really used to having to kind of generate these, like interpolate these manually. Still not sure if that's what I should be doing, or should we be using the Rails helpers here? I don't know. So I'll just worry about that later. So this should be okay. Cool. And if we screw this up, it should fail. Great. Okay. They work. It works if it's got a valid event. If it doesn't have, is that everything that we've added in here? Plug. So I'm never sure, should that be named check event is present or show page if event not present? Like, does the before action, I guess we should look at some precedent there. Like, is that describing the thing that's being done or the outcome of the thing that is being done? I really want to start this as well, because this always gets painful if we don't start it. So let's say we call these other ones. Right, I said manage because that was like that. I don't know if that should be managing an event spec. Like, is it always in the like the verb? An order, and then it would be spec on the end. As a logged out. Just kind of backfilling this stuff. Again, I feel like doing these manually is weird to me. Not something I've done before. The system tests and request specs are slightly newer to me, but I've always used the path helpers, but they're not there by default, and I don't know. It just feels strange. Orders, new. Cool, so that one passes, and doesn't matter that these are public, that's not relevant to these, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we need a public in that other one because we don't have a definition of non-public at the moment either. So here we can just say because the other spec tests the other spec tests the request type, but not what the user should actually see. So shows the greetings from Chile. Thanks. Your videos are awesome. Oh, hello in Chile. Hello. I hope you're having a lovely day. Whatever's going on in Chile. Probably warmer than it is over here in a very chilly, a very cold. So sorry for the pun. Very cold Suffolk. So orders new, and expect this should have event present, which I think should work. I think that's all that needs, right? So let's do that. Oh, and that's wrong. So shows shows a message about, shows an error message. Cool, so that fails as well. Great, so we've got 2 sets of test coverage on that, and that's all we really care about. So you can be viewing an event. Close this. Hey, I'm here. We'll put a lovely button and whatever happens on here, and you can click that. Again, when we move to this model, which I can't see a world in which we don't do this, we move to some model where we have what Eventbrite has, which is this form where they ask a bunch of sorry, I meant clicked off. So here, in what Eventbrite is doing, if we can somehow go back to that event page, or is it not in my history anymore? Oh, it's here. I opened a new tab. Okay. So here, when we're on our event page, this tickets button, at the moment, we're linking through to orders new, right? That we don't have to do that. We can link to, or whatever we want, but it would be like cart/new or something like that. And then this would generate the things I want to purchase. And then this button at the bottom, if we set one of these to 1, this suddenly becomes orders.new, and we're just bumping or kind of inserting the cart process into that. So I don't think by doing a minimum viable version of this initially, we're removing anything that we would want to do later. Because if you notice, what's not being asked for here on this cart step is name, email address, anything like that. It's actually about the things being purchased. It's only when we click checkout that it actually asks us about the order information, and that's what we're going to do in this minimum viable version. So we're going to say an order for an event equals a ticket, and that doesn't scale in any meaningful way, but it does potentially allow us to get an MVP version out where it's like, okay, if you want 2 tickets, you have to go through the order process twice, or whatever, because we might be able to ship a version where we don't even worry about ticket allocation or something else. You're going to build ticket purchase feature like a wizard multi-step. Yeah, definitely. So I think that's so that's from the chat. So I brushed over that. Building the ticket purchase feature like a wizard multi-step. Yes. So at the moment, it's going to be very basic. So you will go event page, which is this, which will have an image on, nice text, things like that, buy ticket. Orders/new will have one form that will represent one ticket initially. Submit that. We won't do payment, won't do anything. This is for the very first version. No payment, no nothing. Click that. That represents a ticket. Great. Okay, that's the simplest version. Then we will want to do, well, I don't know what order we'll want to do it in, but we'll want a step for what type of ticket. We'll want a step for payments and purchases. So you'll need to be able to pay for everything after you've made those edits. And we will want a step for the additional information about each attendee. So we will want a minimum of 4 steps. Now, those 4 steps might be 4 separate views. What they could be is one long form where we have turbo frames, and we kind of like have them as editable or not editable. So we could do one long frame where you just move between the steps, and as you move out of one, we close the other one. Like we could do it like that. And my understanding of turbo frames is that we could sort of build it out where we make it one step at a time and then retrofit the full 1-page experience over the top, because we would already have the correct request and responses. We would just remove the rest of the page around it. So I think that's sort of where we're going. I hope that made sense as an answer to that question. But we're in the super basic part at the moment. So we've got an event, got this right. Let's commit this because I think this works. We've got orders controller. Order present. And in none of those tests that I just did are we specifying that the link has to come from the event page. We're not starting at the event page and linking out to the orders page. We're just dropping straight in. So if we look at this orders controller, the system spec, sorry. We're going straight to the orders page. We're not doing a step where we go to the events page and then click through. I would expect that to be on the event page spec. Because you might just link people straight to the orders page. You don't need them to go through the events page. So let's do a work in progress commit for this. This is, what are we doing? Retrieve event, loading the new order page. And then we can write a play that will show an appropriate message. Cool. Okay, so now we need to buy the order, right? we've got our new orders page, so we've got to have a form on there. So let's say what we want to happen. That is in the feature spec. Which is it? Genuinely took me 10 minutes to realize what I was looking at. So let's do that here. Close these ones down. All right, so with the valid event shows the new order page. Are we going to treat this as an all-in-one? Yeah, maybe we are. So maybe showing the page isn't the valid event. It I haven't really set a precedent for the wording of these. But it should be something like yeah, see, this doesn't make any sense when it's actually spat out. So as a logged out user with non-valid shows an error message. So it's a, like, I see an error message. So this is presumably like, complete a successful order, I guess. I don't know if I can is the right words, but whatever. So we go to there. That can stay. And then on here, we can do built in. We're going to have, already forgotten all of the fields we added. And a name. And an email. We're not going to need to do order number. We'll generate that. So we're not going to ask the user to fill that in. We've already got the event ID. That's coming from the params, and we can also store it on the form if we want. There's no real downside to storing that on a form. It would be an issue if we didn't ever want the user to be able to edit it, but we would check in that creation process, like, can this user create an order for this event? And so if we're putting an association ID in a form, the thought process is always a user can manipulate this. Is this okay? Because if so, it shouldn't go in the form. But we don't really care if they edit it and chuck it in for the wrong event, because they'll either buy tickets to another event. As long as they can buy tickets to another event, they could always have just gone over there and clicked on it. As long as they're able to manipulate it to something they could have done anyway, who cares? So we just need to validate that. So we don't mind putting that in the form or just reading the param on the submission or whatever. Generally, I think you put it in the form because they could have just messed with the the param would be in the submission anyway. It doesn't matter. The param, sorry, would be in the form action. So fill in name and email. That's it, I think. That's what we really care about. So we want with. We can say first name. Here we can put in test email, sample.com, and then we want to have click button, and this is going to be confirm order. Just making this up again. No user interface design. No real design at all. We're just winging it, doing it by testing. And then we just, thank you for your order with an exclamation mark, because that's how excited we are. That's what we expect to happen. That test is going to fail. I'm not going to run it to show this failing spec because we know it's going to fail. But what we can do is start to make it pass. No, it's not event show. It would be order show. Order new, sorry. And we can have form with, I think this, I'm trying to do this from memory. I can never remember the new syntax for this. I think it's this. I'm gonna have to look it up because I'm not gonna know how to do this. And then, but then we can have f.submit, and this is confirm order. And this is like f dot. I can't remember if we're using simple form. I don't. Are we using simple form? Yes. And we're doing that for a reason. I can't remember what, but we are. Input, and input is an owner name. I hope I've got those right. Owner name? No, that would just be owner name. The ID would be event owner name, and then this one would be owner email. And these are both text, so I think we need to put as string, because I think in Postgres these are stored as text, which will show as a text area rather than a text box, which is fine. So we just need to specify that. Anywhere near that first run at that? No, not even. Undefined method orders path. Okay, so I think we haven't got a route for create. And so because it's not a simple form. Simple form 4, okay. And then we don't need model. We can just do that. Yeah. So I can't remember why we use simple form. I'd have to go back and watch that stream, which is actually really handy to be able to go back and remember why we're doing it. I think the we could probably make a kind of policy choice here, which is like if you're using simple form, use it everywhere, or you could say no, default to form with unless you have a need for simple form. I've always found simple form to be a wrapper around Rails form stuff that isn't too onerous. And you got a lot of benefits for it in terms of like formatting and stuff. I'm going to say I think what we'll do is default to using it everywhere, which may totally come back to bite us in the ass, but that happens. That happens. And normally you give it way more thought than I'm giving it right now. But we have a form. Amazing. And we should now only fail our test. Should be able to get to like here. Which is pretty good, I think, for 10 minutes of work. No, okay, so maybe I got these wrong. Order owner name. Oh, event. I just got the test wrong, with the wrong word on as a prefix. Yep. So what we're failing on here is we think that the page should say this, and it doesn't. Presumably, the page actually says. Couldn't. We tried to send it to create and couldn't because there's nothing there, which is perfect. So this can stay, and it is the actual behavior we want. But what we want to jump over is to the request spec for it. and we want to tell it here what we want to happen. So we should now have a create action. Again, we haven't wrapped any of this stuff in any helpers, which would help us, but maybe we'll make specific new params, and what we'll do is we will make this other params. So yep, so we're doing a request back here, so we're just going to make a post request to orders new, and we've already added the roots for that. In our params, we're passing in an order, which we're going to make required, and then the valid params will make just a hash that we can then manipulate in the tests. And this is going to include owner name and owner email. And going to have new owner name and new owner .com. And so it should return a redirect. No, it should direct to a confirmation page, and it, I need this shit on there, creates a new order. Check that. Right, so if we do create action, we would say expect create action to change order.count. I'm not going to do any actual checking. I guess we could check that the right thing is being created, because where create action, expect response to redirect to, and we don't have a place to send it, so I'll just put that in as a test for now. Let's just see if the test actually runs in any meaningful way, or if I've got riddled with typos. Probably riddled with typos. Yep. No comma. I love how red-green refactor for me is just typo based. It's like, okay, have you managed to write words in the English language? No, you haven't. Okay, great. So orders new, no root matches post orders new. No root matches post orders new. Orders new get. Oh, wait. I should be just /orders. See, this is what I'm talking about with the why these are. Oh no, that's what we actually want in here. Sorry. So it's there. Ah. The action create cannot be found for orders controller. Perfect. So we have a test that fails. Is the other one saying the same thing? Yes. Okay. So we have a test that fails because we haven't fulfilled the code. So we want to go to the orders controller and we want to have create and we want to say new, and I think we can put in I'm just realizing some stuff we're not going to get to today, but I'm just going to pop some bits and bobs on here to remind me to come back to them. Things to fix should be order number should be have unique constraint in migration. Because we're not generating an order number here, so it's just something about and we want to have the params to pass to it. So let's do we want order params. Not doing us any specific order. Just trying to get that test fulfilled. So we've already specified that we've got an order in our params, so we can say params dot require an order. I keep saying event, but I don't mean that. And we're going to allow in, going to permit these params, and we're going to say, already forgotten what they are, order name, order email. Owner name and owner email, not order name. Okay. So here we can also have event ID. And that could be the actual event of the ID, and that could be 1, 2, 3. But it's a param, so it'll always be like that. But we want it to be a real event, actually. So let's specify that as well. We're not going to do any validation at this point that you can or cannot purchase from that event, just because we haven't got any of that logic planned. Or again, not doing this the way we would actually build a real application, because at some point we would have wanted to have a conversation about rules about what you can and can't buy. Just doing it for the stream, we're just going to do it pretty fast and loose. And so that can be event.id. And we could also put that in here, I guess. What was that? So that would be something like that. That doesn't look right. Doesn't look right either. Need a formatter. Okay, so just because we've allowed them through, this is going to have event ID, but we need to pass the event ID through. I'm just going to put this in here for now. That is going to be, how do you do this? You do this work. I'm doing all of this from memory, so it could be way Oh, we have the slug, don't we? No, so we could do params. Or value, sorry, so event dot d. Yes, so that's event number 9. And if we try a different one, event number 15. Okay, because we need the event ID when we're doing the creation, but we're happy to take it from user generated page. We don't need to infer or anything because we will have some validation that this user can buy a ticket or that tickets are purchasable for that event. We don't have that at the moment, but that's fine. So that's coming through as a param. We could, I've put it here in the form, but we could actually set it as a param on the is it the action? Yeah, the action of the form, which is the path where it gets passed through. I don't really think it matters particularly. I don't think so. So that will go through, that will go through, and that will go through. We expect it to create a new order. The order will need an order number because we said that was required, but we haven't bothered to generate it. So we need to do something and we can do like, this. Oh, do we want just numbers maybe? Or do people want letters in their order IDs? Guess that's like a branding question you could ask. This will do for now. Wonder if there are any performance implications of that. That'll do. And we then want to do we want to redirect to, well, let's just do to home because that test will not actually pass. And else we can do render new, and that would be errors on the model. Right, does any of that make a test pass? Just sort of did that all a bit ad hoc. Doesn't expect a response to redirect to that, but it's no event present. Because it's looking for, it's still looking for the event ID in that post. Do we want that? Do we want to check an event is present? Because what we're saying there is we could skip the need for this being specified in the form if we say that the post request has to have the event slug, because then we would run this set event from slug and we would then have an event instance variable here. So that could come out of there, and then instead we could do order dot event equals at event dot, oh, it'll just be that. Does that tie us to needing to care about the event slug on that form? We know we have it, so I don't know why that's a problem. What is that form actually submitting to at the moment? Just /orders. So that could be, we could do form for. Yeah, I just don't think we need that then. So I think we could do like only new for that. And potentially for that. And then this can go. So what does that mean? It means you could potentially post to the create action, lightning an event. But if we're talking about having this cart ID, that seems fine. Like, because the event would be part of what that cart was, I would assume. So I think that's fine. Maybe this is not good, but I don't know why. Let's see what that does to this. Okay, wow, they pass. So if we now don't want them to redirect to the home page, we want to show a success. So we should now have an order in. I've got the console open somewhere. Because it's test. That doesn't work. Okay, so let's redirect to a success page, and let's have let's call that confirmation. Because I think you always end up with more logic than you think around those confirmations, especially when you have things like payments involved and also analytics. Like, you would think that you just putting an extra view in the orders controller, so you'd have like show, new, like, yeah, you'd have new and then create, and then you could have a show view, and the show view could be your success page. But that's often not the case, because you probably want to come back to the orders show, or have like user orders show or something like that, and explicitly saying the view where the user is shown the confirmation of their order is a different thing to everything else. And it maybe contains a bunch of analytics logic. It maybe you can't get back there. Maybe you can see it for a period of time or something, and then you have to go to, maybe there's a redirect that sends them into their account. So rather than saying, thanks, great, you're done, they're always redirected into their user account. So user/orders/ID or whatever it is. So this is something that I've started to do as a pattern regularly, just from learned experience. So let's do that. So let's do like, let's do so this is an example of using a controller that's not backed by an active record model. So you've got orders, confirmations controller. So we're namespacing the confirmations controller within orders, because maybe later on you'll have like a purchase confirmation or something like that. I don't know. But this can really, it generates a lot more code, I think, potentially, but it really helps you separate out what's actually happening here. And so we are going to have only a show action for this. It's only going to do one thing. It's going to show those confirmations. And we are going to have an order. Whoops. And I'm going to have to work out how to commit some of this, because we're sort of, all of this is sort of related. And we don't have a factory for order, so maybe that could be a commit on its own, just getting that set up. And an order. Requires an order number. which we can have as a sequence because they're going to need to be unique. And I think we can just do just return n. Does it? Don't think it needs to be a string or anything. Does that work? Can you just do that? Don't know. Let's try that in a minute. So that's order number, owner name, email, and event. This. So let's say this is like order, and then so we should have, just trying to crack through this pretty quickly just because I'm aware there's a lot of boilerplate here. So with a valid order, return success response. And here, right, and so what is the path for this? I've also got a typo in here. Just cracking through really. So we want to put in our roots, orders, do resource, because I think so. Confirmation only show. Does that get us what we want? I've got loads of confirmation stuff. So order confirmation path, confirmation, but we want the path to be no, confirmation works for the user to see confirmation. That works. So orders /123/confirmation. That's pretty good. So we want this test. But this would be order.id. Be order number. We can make that like a friendly ID thing, I guess. There, so that would work. And then we actually need to build this controller. Going pretty quickly through all of this. Hopefully this is making some sense. All right, we've got 15 minutes. We'll bring us to the 2 hours mark. So let's try and get this test and everything passing. That gives us a goal to hit. So it should be orders, confirmations, controller. And we would want to say have a before action, which is set order. Again, we would need to have some sort of thing to say that only the person who made this order can be directed to the success page. So we could like sign a message at the end of the confirmation page and have that come over here. We could do whatever we want. Not going to worry about any of that right now. This is just going to be this is just going to be what it is. So order, then we can do order equals find by order number, and that can go as params Does this work? Again, let's just try and get some rough things passing. We've sort of ended up one controller over, but I don't think that's a problem because I think creating the order and having the confirmation for the order are all sort of part of the same process. So that is... That's not correct in that factory. Like this? Does it just need the do and end? Initialize confirmations controller. So we need to tell it the namespace in the roots. And we can do that by putting in module orders. All right. Yeah, so then we've got orders / confirmations. So what module is doing is adding that namespace to the controller it's going to look for. So hopefully we'll fix that. So without that, I think it was just looking for confirmations, I think. Yeah, there we go. So now we have, what did that test actually test before I get all excited that that worked? Oh, so it should work. Okay. And so what we want to do at the end of the orders control of the orders controller, the real one, not the spec, is to redirect to, instead of redirecting to here, we redirect to order confirmation path, and we put order number is at order dot order number, and then on here we should say, so this should then fail. Mm-hmm. Missing required keys order ID. Where's that going to? Orders, confirmations, order number. Required keys order ID. Oh, I see. So it's because we're still in that. So we'd need to pass in order ID. Okay, so that can go through as order ID. And we'll just change the name of that param. And then in the confirmations controller, where's the actual confirmations controller gone? Lost it. Must have closed it. That can be params order ID. I'm hoping this is making some sense to people. Sort of holding it in my head. Great, so we're going to example.com/orders, blah, 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 /confirmation. But we expected it to be orders, blah, 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 confirmation. Expected response to be a redirect to... Oh no, I want it to be that. Right, okay. So that's the test that's wrong. Did I just forget to update that? What does controller create? Oh, here. So redirect to a confirmation page. Yes, so we expect this to redirect to the same place as this. And is this the one where we can't use... Got to close it. I've got too many tabs open. I can't keep track of what's going on. This. I want it to get to this. Oh, so we haven't got the order ID, but we can use what I've done there is put in a regex previously. So this can accept this will do for now. Just let's get, we can come back. Let's put in do update to check for correct path skipped as running out of time on the stream. Cool. So just remember why I did that thing. So does that then pass? Right, we've got 6 minutes. Cool. Okay. And so where's our feature spec? Because in our confirmation show, we want to add the text that we had in our features. Sorry, our system spec. We had, thank you for your order. Well, let's see if this now passes. Great, so that passes as well. So what I think we should now be able to do is close these down, go to an event, a public page for an event. If I turn the server off, it has super crashed. That's cool, cool. Not sure what's happened there. Looks like a Ruby error. Let's completely ignore that. Great, so we've gone to our public page for our event. Looks like a dog's dinner. We don't care. Great. Buy the ticket. Great, create this. So that's her name. That's the email address. That's the order ID. Sorry, that's the event ID. Confirm. Thank you for your order. And in here, which is console somewhere, we should now have order.count as 1, order.last. And we're going to consider that a ticket purchase for that person in this example. One purchase at the moment is going to equal 1 ticket. So 5 minutes, we're going to do a full recap of what just happened. We now have an orders controller that takes care of creating the orders and doing kind of like the basic Rails-y thing. That's orders controller. And it has new and create. And that's all sort of pretty normal. There's a few quirks on there because we're doing things with slugs. We wanted to show an error page if one wasn't present. So what I did do there was implement a new template and just render that rather than and put in a specific status rather than trying to redirect you somewhere else. You could implement that differently depending on what you wanted. We then save the order. We consider saving the order to be, at the moment, buying a ticket or whatever. We then redirect to, and rather than redirecting to somewhere else in the orders controller, so orders show would be a good candidate to have the confirmation as, be like, hey, you've just created this order, great, here's the show order. What we've done is instead create a namespace confirmations controller that only has a show action. And at the moment, there is no validation in here that you were the person who made the order or that you should only be able to see it for certain reasons, which definitely would 100% need to be added. But this is just a quickie version of this, like just to get us up and running. But what this allows us to do is add and control logic around showing the confirmation page, redirect if we don't want them to see it after a certain time, handle all of that logic over who should be able to see it in its own place, and add its own tests and do all of those things. And this, I think, is the first instance of a controller we have that is not backed by a database table or a model. So this is a pattern that doesn't always kind of like, it's not obvious if you're starting off on your Rails journey, because you sort of tend to think more in that kind of like a model and a controller are database backed things, and I need to put everything in those controllers, whereas I often end up with lots of controllers that have nothing to do with a specific table in the database. They represent something that is a resource either that we care about from the routing side of things, or that the user cares about seeing specifically. And we know we're going to want to add logic and rules and write loads of tests around whether they can see them. So this really made a lot more work. So the last 10-15 minutes or so, well, you've seen like it's another round of tests, request specs specifically. We didn't need to update our feature test because the behavior to the user is still the same. They still get a confirmations page. So we haven't had to change that. The additional testing comes around at the request level. Maybe it isn't as much extra because you would still need to test that, but it would live within your orders controller specs, whereas now we just have this extra folder called confirmations. The folder is called orders, and then we have this confirmations controller within it that contains all of that logic. And backing out of these isn't as painful as you might think, because again, if the path structure doesn't change, it doesn't matter. So at the moment, what we get for our routes is orders, order ID, confirmation. So there's no implication that this to the user that this lives anywhere else. So we could move that to an action on our orders controller if we wanted to pretty easily and maintain this path. So if you do extract out too far and you're uncomfortable that you've ended up namespacing, or you've diversified your logic over too many controllers, but you find too much shared behavior and end up having to put in too many concerns or something like that. You're like, oh, actually, these can all live in one place. Getting them back together you're not committing to anything that you can't undo. So it's a good pattern to try and experiment with if you've never used it before. So yeah, hopefully that's useful for people to take a look at. And we are done. That is 1 hour and 59 minutes. So we're done. We're going to wrap it up. We didn't go back and fix the branch that I said we would at the start of the stream. That is very annoying because I'm gonna have to commit to doing it outside of this stream. We'll do that. I'll also try and get these commits done, but we are getting somewhere. We're not a million miles. Like, you could sort of throw this up. We can just put some logic together and like have an event that people can like come along to, and like we can post some information. So we've got our orders working, and then we're going to go back and start to make them more and more complex. So put in our logic, who should see what and when, start to think about how we would have ticket types, ask for more information, all that fun stuff. All of that next week. I'll try and get a user interface design session in. No promises. Don't know when it's going to happen. It will happen at some point. Other than that, I hope you're having a great start to 2022, and I will see you all at least next week, next Sunday for Sunday Club. Have a great week. Bye-bye.